if you actually had a press that cares about video games, if you actually had a gaming press that is concerned about the quality of video games, what they should talk about the newly announced Battlefield 2042 rather than the politics is they should have asked the developers, why is it that we don't get a campaign? Why is it that you're charging full money for a game without a campaign? That is the only question they should have asked, because I'm telling you this, whether you care about it or not, if you go on any video game forum, if you go on Reddit, if you go on 4chan, if you go wherever you want, even on Twitter, you're going to find people asking these questions. Why is there no campaign? Why can't I play a campaign? I know the majority of people, when it comes to Battlefield, they play multiplayer. I get that. But a lot of people enjoy playing the campaign, myself included. So why should I buy this game at, I don't know how much is it going to be, probably full price, AAA gaming price. Why can't I buy it and have a campaign? But no, instead we need to talk about ridiculous stuff that is not worthy of talking about. Politics and video. Who cares? Why don't you talk about and ask them, is the game going to be functional on day one? Can you vouch for us, developer? Can you promise us that on day one, the game is going to work? This is the problem Battlefield constantly has. Day one game isn't functional. Why should I buy it in day one then? Why shouldn't I wait until it's on a discount? This is what the gaming press should ask if they care about video games. Microtransactions, how many? How much am I expected to play in order for it to be competitive? How much am I needing to grind if I don't want to pay money so that I can be on the same competitive level with someone else that has access to full gear? How much is my wallet going to be violated if I expect to buy the resources, to buy the packages and whatnot in order to be competitive with someone else? That's the questions that they want to ask. You know, you don't want to make a campaign? Fine. What exactly are you adding to the multiplayer that's so mind-blowing? What exactly are you putting into this game that is worthy of you cutting the campaign off? That's something that they should ask. Instead, it's like focusing on the politics. Why? Because they actually have a tornado within the game. And it's like, oh yeah, so if the game takes place in 2042 and we got a tornado, clearly global warming is what you want to talk about. That's why you made this game. You didn't make this game to get a profit. You didn't make this game in order to make money. No, you made it to raise awareness on global warming because Greta Thunberg did a bad job. She wasn't good enough. Now we need Battlefield 2042 in order to raise awareness. Honestly, politics and video games is the cringiest topic ever. I'll tell you why it's cringe. Number one, you're not going to get relatable politics from a multi-billion-dollar corporation. A multi-billion-dollar corporation wants to make money. They're not going to give you politics that's against them, that's working against them. You're not going to get the same type of politics that 4 people in a garage would make about a video game. Do you want me to give you examples? Fine, I'll give you examples. Do you remember the game Homefront? Do you remember the story of Homefront, the sequel? The story is that North Korea is invading America. One of the most laughable stories in the history. Like, you had people that didn't buy the game because of the story. Do you know that the initial story was about China invading America? Which would have made a little bit more sense. But tell you what, the game was banned in China. If that would have gone through, would have been banned in China. Sorry, grammar, Romanian, okay? But you get my point. The game would have been banned in China, so the corporation wanting to sell in China, they were like, okay, let's make it so that North Korea is invading the US. Yeah, that's what you get. There was another Tom Clancy game which had an organization set on world conquest, and they had a black fist as their logo. Oh, all of a sudden people criticized it because it was too similar to Black Lives Matter. It's like, what are you trying to say here? Deus Ex, the last one, also had Augment Lives Matter as a faction in the game. You know, like the people that augmented themselves and now they were being persecuted. Yeah. Well, what politics in video games? You can't make politics meaningful if you have like these levels of censorship. It's like only politics that the journalists like and only politics that the corporation like. And heaven forbid you make a video game that gets people to think. The story of Attack on Titan if it was made now in a AAA game, like people would freak out. If you had a Mass Effect game, which would have like a similar story to Attack on Titan, oh my god, 1.0 on Metacritic. That's my point, right? And the journalists, they're not criticizing the video games anymore. They don't even bother. I mean, Ratchet and Clank, don't even get me started with it. Ratchet and Clank was a game that was cool at the time. Part of it because of its edgy humor. Part of it because it had interesting new gameplay mechanics that you'd find in very few other games. Now I'm looking at the new Ratchet and Clank, which is upcoming, and the only reason I care about it is because it's literally one of the few PlayStation 5 exclusives that's coming, and I'm just curious to see, alright, what is PS5 offering? Childish humor, very safe, very watered down, like nothing compared to the original when people absolutely had creative freedom. So, childish humor and not a single gameplay element that looks unique or cool. Sure, the graphics looks kind of cool, but it's another sequelitis that you need to pay like what, $70 for? Like I would be happy paying $40 for that. $70? How much is it a PS5 game nowadays? Absurd, absolutely ridiculous, you know, and you don't have the video gaming developer as and you don't see the video gaming journalists complain about it. You don't see them bringing up the fact that the video gaming industry is quite stale now. It's becoming like Hollywood. Everything is a sequel. Everything is a reboot. Everything is a remake. Everything is a reimagining. And almost no gameplay elements that are being added. Like nothing new. You know, Battlefield 2042. I would have loved a ranking system. I would have loved a ladder. Some competitive thing that I can play. Because I just don't get the appeal of Battlefield coming back to this game. I don't. You know, it's kind of cool when you play it in the beginning, but unless you have a group of friends, unless you have like some dedicated people that you can play with, it's boring as hell. Get boring really quickly, and it's just a grind fest. It's like you get to play classes that you don't like in order to find gear that would just help you be competitive. It will lift you to the level where it's kind of acceptable, and you're constantly being placed with other people that are worse than you, but because they have access to better gear, they win. Like, perfect example, okay? And this is when I used to play Battlefield. I don't know if it's the same. But this is some accurate criticism that you can bring. So, in Battlefield 4, in order for you to be able to fly in a plane, you had to grind until you get access to the flare. So, the flare is like if someone launches a missile at your plane, you launch the flare, and the missile doesn't hit you. Right? So without that, it's very difficult to fly planes. And you don't get to start with that. You have to grind it. You have to farm it until you get it. How is that fun? Like, why do people enjoy this is beyond me. The only reason you buy Battlefield, I guess, at this point is for the cool graphics, which clearly it has, but, you know, like, if there was pressure on these video games to improve, they would have improved. I mean, right now, the pressure is for them to become more diverse, so they're becoming diverse. Right? Because that's where the pressure is at. But becoming diverse doesn't hurt the game's wallet, doesn't hurt the company's wallet at all. Making sure that everyone has an advantage when they buy the game and it's not farm to win or pay to win, oh yeah, that would actually hurt their business model. That would actually make them have to put out good games. So that's my beef with video game journalists. And by the way, like, it actually works. Like, we consumers, we have power to change this. Like, we genuinely have the power to change this, because if you think about why Battlefield 2042 is now saying that it's actually not, it's not about climate change, it's not about politics, it's because they got burned with the previous title. Like, in the previous title, they said they want to make a World War II game, and what do they put on the box? A woman with a mechanical bionic arm. Yeah, that's what I think about when I hear, when I see World War II. When I go to the graveyard, and I go to the graveyard of heroes, that's what I get to see. So, you know, the consumers got upset. The consumers stopped buying it. Angry Joe got BTFO. Like, after that, even Angry Joe changed his mind a little bit about wokeness in video games. Because initially he was like, oh, what's wrong with the woman on the box? Who cares? And then he saw that, well, a lot of people care because they're rolling their eyes. They're rolling their eyes, not because of the woman on the box, which is fine, But the way the company treated the customers that complained, oh, you're complaining about this, it's just because you're sexist. Oh, you're complaining about this is because you're a misogynist. Banning people, banning their own customers on the forums, giving snarky replies on Twitter, blocking people on Twitter. Yeah, that caused a lot of people to stop buying the game. Why are people messaging me when I do this? Like, look at this. It's just... Anyway, right, so it shows that the consumer does have power, believe it or not. The consumer genuinely has the power to change things. And buying or not buying games and having a pushback is going to make a change. Even if you're pushing back and you're getting called all sorts of names, you're getting placed all sorts of labels, the press is attacking you and whatnot. Even with those, like if you manage to stomach through them, you can actually get companies to change. And like Battlefield 2042, perfect example of why they've changed. Like, they're not doing politics now, they're focusing on gameplay. Not enough, not good enough. Why don't you have a campaign? What exactly are you adding that's so brand new that is worthy of you taking out the campaign? But anyway, right, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.